Why is it that why is it that why is it that why is it that 1,000 years from now, when somebody's building a footing for a house and they turn up one of those bells and read that autobiography, they're going to think, God, here's a guy that wrote that thing 1,000 years ago. Isn't this interesting? Here's a guy.
You are also leaving other vestiges of your life in these bells. So I want you to tell me about the bells a little bit. We have one here.
Well, I talked about that at some length in my book. Why is it that we study history, we know a lot about the past, but we don't know anything about the future? And seemingly we have no influence on the future. Well, I found that, in my opinion, to be unsatisfactory. So I started making bells, and I have quotes around the edge of my bell. I sign all of them and put the date on them. And I've taken 8 of these things out in different places around New Mexico, and I've buried them 4 feet deep, 3 to 4 feet deep, so that a metal detector cannot find these bells. Maybe in 1,000 years, a machine can find these bells. But I have another, I think, 28 bells that I'm burying. Not only bells, but I have bronze jars that have screw-on lids. So I've written a 20,000-word autobiography, and I put my autobiography in those jars and screw the lid on real tight, and I bury those. My philosophy is that I am influencing the future. 1,000 years from now, when somebody's building a footing for a house and they turn up one of those bells and read that autobiography, they're going to think, God, here's a guy that wrote that thing 1,000 years ago. Isn't this interesting?
Now, most municipalities and schools, they will bury a time capsule with everything that's happening then. You're sort of putting a time capsule, but with a touch of the infinite, because some of the things that you have inscribed on the bells are things like, ring the bell loudly, for he who dies with over $50 is a failure.
That's an Errol Flynn quote.
And an Albert Einstein quote, imagination is more important than knowledge. I think that's what you have on there.
But I altered it a little bit.
Better.
Imagination is better than knowledge, and I misspell knowledge.
Another one that I just love, if you should ever think of me 1,000 years from now,
please ring my bell so I will know. And 1,000 years from now, Lorraine, when somebody digs that bell up and rings it, I'm going to know.
You're going to know. You're going to know. Well, we'll insert a couple of close-ups of the bell. It's beautiful. The sound is beautiful. And I think the sound has a magical quality to it.
Well, I make these things out of wax, and I take them to Shidoni Foundry in Tasuki, and they cast them for me. I probably made, I want to think, 40 of these things. And I have another 28 that I'm going to bury. I've buried 8 so far. If I can live long enough, I'm going to bury all of them.
You don't actually dig the 4-foot hole yourself, do you?
Sure I do.
Well, you're very fit, Forrest.
I don't want anybody to know where they are.
Oh, that's right. Well, now that's the other question that people are always asking about the treasure.